Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the City of Neenah Common Council meeting for Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. Clerk will call the roll. Please indicate your presence on your roll call device.
Alderperson Boyette. Here. Orchard. Here. Hillstrom.
Here.
Lundrum.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Skirms.
Here.
Steiner.
Here.
And Stevenson is excused.
Thank you. Alderman Borchert will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Next item on the agenda is recognition of retirees. At this time, I'd like to recognize and honor our recently retired Library Director, Gretchen Robb, for her 32 years of service to the City of Neenah. Over the many years Gretchen served the city at the Neenah Public Library, she has truly made an incredibly significant and positive contribution to our community, creating new and innovative programs, growing the library's prominence throughout the region and state, and always creating an exceptionally welcoming environment for those visiting the library are just a few of Gretchen's many accomplishments along with her team. She will be greatly missed, and it has been an honor to know her and work with her over the past many years. Thank you to Gretchen for all she has done for the city through her leadership of the Neenah Public Library. She has truly made Neenah a much better place. Next item, I don't think Gretchen is here tonight, but she has retired. The next item on the agenda is the introduction and confirmation of mayor's appointments. The reappointment of Council President Stevenson to the Appleton Redevelopment Authority Exhibition Center Advisory Committee for a one-year term, and the swearing in of our newly appointed Director of the Neenah Public Library, Nicole Hardina-Wilhelm. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of those two items? Seeing none, that is so ordered. And at this time, we would like to swear in our new library director, Nicole Hardina-Wilhelm.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I state your name.
Nicole Hardina-Wilhelm,
Having been appointed
having been appointed
Director of Neenah Public Library
Director of the Neenah Public Library
in the City of Neenah,
in the City of Neenah,
Winnebago County,
Winnebago County,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Wisconsin,
of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of
the duties of
Library Director
Library Director
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
after having served for so many years as our deputy library director, we're so appreciative that you are now stepping into this role as director of the library, so congratulations.
Thank you. Dear Mayor Lang and council members and citizens of Neenah, I am thrilled and honored to stand before you today and be sworn in as the new Neenah Public Library library director. I started my library career 23 years ago at the Cumberland County Library System in North Carolina, making my way to Carver County Library System in Minnesota before accepting an adult services librarian position at the Neenah Public Library 18 years ago. In 2013, I became the deputy director. Over the last 18 years, I've added new programs such as memory cafes, speed puzzling tournaments, and Monday morning book clutch discussion group. New services including the Bibliocycle, Book Club to Go, and Notary services, and new collections, the popular Wisconsin Digital Library, and Hoopla online libraries, Wi-Fi hotspots, and memory maker kits to highlight a few. Many of these programs, services, and collections stem from my conversations with community members and fellow librarians. As the director, I will continue to listen to our patrons, advocate for their wishes, foster innovation, and support the library staff to make their visions a reality. In the first few months, I will coordinate and hopefully survive the recarpeting of the second floor, learn the position, and talk to staff. In the following year, I will survey the community and find out what you all want to see at the Neenah Public Library. Finally, I will honor the legacy of the directors and staff who came before, while looking to the future by building off the library's current relationships and creating new partnerships. I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the council proceedings from the February 15th, 2023 meeting. Is there any objection to unanimous consent of that being approved? Seeing none, those proceedings are approved. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing section. The first public hearing is consideration of the 2023 Community Development Block Grant Program proposed use of funds and annual action plan. Is there anyone here who would like to speak during the public hearing or consideration of the 2023 Community Development Block Grant Program proposed use of funds and annual action plan? Is there anyone here who would like to speak on that item? Seeing no one, we will close that public hearing. The next item on the agenda is also under the public hearing, consideration of special assessments to be levied upon properties on both sides of the streets for the construction and installation of street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk for Arthur Platt. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on that item during the public hearing? If you would, please come forward and state your name and address. Yes. Oh, with, I'm sorry, 5-minute time limit
Okay.
for speaker.
Okay, am I speaking now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is...
I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Kurt Wanless. I live at 773 Amber Lane. Hopefully I don't take the full 5 minutes. I'm speaking on behalf of the proposed curb and gutter project on Amber Lane. I would ask that the council consider the timing of the project for Amber Lane. As I look at the frequently asked questions, fact number 16 acknowledges that the project's not necessary at this time, but that it's included in scope only to get better pricing for the overall project. And so while we recognize that the construction will eventually have to happen, I think the timing is the question that we have. I think there are a number of reasons that the council should consider delaying. The first is that the street's not fully developed. There are a number of lots that still need to have construction on them. The second is just given the current inflation, seems like a bad time to do the project, and it might be more expensive than if we'd wait a few years. And then the third is just the burden for the people that live on Amber Lane, myself included. Obviously we'd like to delay that as long as possible, not only the economic burden, but also the time of construction over the summer, the burden on our families. So we would ask that you consider delaying the project for those reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing on consideration of the special assessment for Arthur Platt? Please come forward.
I'm Christine Wanless, and obviously my husband and I didn't coordinate very well because we're speaking separately. I live at 773 Amber Lane. I'd just like to, reiterate what Kurt indicated with the project being premature. We just received notice of this being included in the city's budget, I think, a few months ago, and there was nowhere in the initial letter that indicated we were actually going to receive the assessment for it until we received this most recent letter. So just for planning purposes, we were a little blindsided, and we do understand this is something that needs to be done eventually, but if it's not something that needs to be done right now, it seems to be something that, for burden on us as property owners with the inflation going on, we were just included to get better pricing overall for the city. It seems a bit unfair. I guess the other thing I would say is it seems that the street that we live on has asphalt covering right now. It's not a high-traffic street. There isn't seem to be any issues with it that I'm aware of. And for that reason, this project at this time doesn't seem like something that's really benefiting us as property owners on that street versus, maybe the public and the city in general with the inclusion for better pricing for other areas in the city. And so I don't think it's equitable to ask us to pay for the construction at this point for something that's not especially benefiting us. The other thing, I guess I just, personal plea, I have a special needs daughter who's picked up in front of my house on a bus every day. The timing of this project, we haven't received any assurance in terms of when it's going to occur. It sounds like if we do need to, if the project does go forward, we're going to be asked to park about a block and a half away, which is going to be, in my personal household, not that easy to manage because of my daughter. So again, if it's something that doesn't have to happen right now, I would ask that the council consider delaying it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this particular consideration?
My name is Tom Brown. I live at 754 Amber Lane. First of all, I want to thank you all for giving us the chance to give you thoughts and considerations for what you might consider. My biggest thing in the thing is I've built a couple of houses, and we lived on streets that we put new streets in, and everywhere I've been in Neenah, they said that you need 75% of total occupancy of the lots on the street. Our street has 8 lots on it. 5 houses are built on it. There's 3 lots that are empty. That equates to, I think, about 62.3% or 62.8% of occupancy on that street. The street itself is on bedrock. The street is very solid. It's probably 80-90% a very good street. There is no drainage problems on the street. I've lived on the first house that's been on that street for 18 years, and there's never been a problem with drainage on the street as far as water conditions, et cetera, that go like that. My other biggest condition is, or thought would be, it's going to be built. We're not saying we don't want the street to happen or the assessment, et cetera. We acknowledge that when we bought the lots, we know that was going to exist. But the biggest thing is if you could defer the money to go home, to go to work, to go down Amber Lane or Meadowbrook Lane or to Bayview, these streets need so much more work and aren't any consideration of being redone. Defer that money. Take that money and fix streets. I think on that southeast side of Neenah, I'd like to put the percentage of how much taxpayers' money really come from that corner of the city where they got to go down that Bayview Lane. It's a consideration for fire, for police, for medical, and anybody going up and down the street as far as what it takes to go up and down it. To defer the money that you want to put towards us, give it to them or give it to Meadowbrook. On either way you come into that street, it's a problem to get there. Those are the biggest things, but I think the biggest leg that we have to stand on, there's not full occupancy of all the lots that are on it. I appreciate your considerations and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing for the special assessment on Arthur Platt. Anyone else? Seeing no one on that item, I will close that public hearing. The next item is consideration of the special assessments to be levied upon properties on both sides of the streets for the construction and installation of street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk for Liberty Heights Platt. Is there anyone here who would like to speak during this public hearing? Please come forward.
My name is Robert Kennedy. I reside at 1836 Hedgeview Drive. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our views and concerns. The words fair and equitable have been used many times in the discussions about the street, curb, and gutter project for the Liberty Heights subdivision. Is it fair and equitable that the city should change the assessment method for this project? Homeowners and home buyers, since the creation of this subdivision almost 20 years ago, have expected that the eventual street improvements would be assessed on the linear front footage method. Many lot and home purchase decisions were made based on this information. I understand the city desires to change the way they assess street improvements in new subdivisions, but this is not a new subdivision and should not be subject to the newly created unit basis method. Assuming that street improvements add to the value of a property, is it fair and equitable that lot owners with less frontage should subsidize street improvements for those with larger frontage? Why should lot owners with less frontage pay for part of an investment in a property when there would be no return on that investment? Finally, the newly created unit basis ordinance language states, and I quote, "This method is best used when there is both uniformity of lots and uniformity of uses within a subdivision," unquote. I will agree that the uniformity of uses criteria is met, but in my opinion, the large differences in sizes, shapes, and accessible linear front footage measurements do not satisfy the uniformity of lots criteria. I urge the council to assess these final project costs for the Liberty Heights subdivision by using the accessible front footage method, since this method was the original method in place when lots and homes were purchased. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the consideration of the assessments to be levied at Liberty Heights? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Pete Brace. I live at 1831 Nation Court in Neenah in Liberty Heights. I'd like to start by saying that I can guarantee that with my discomfort with public speaking, I will not use my full 5 allotted minutes. Bob is a very tough act to follow. I do agree with his very well laid out words. For roughly 2/3 of the homes in our neighborhood, the assessment on the unit method versus the linear foot method is akin to a table of 2 going out for dinner, and then at the end of the night, when their bill comes, they find that they're splitting a check with the entire restaurant, not just for their small party of 2. So we already monetize our larger community involvement with our property taxes. These are based off of our homes and our properties that we are assessed and required to maintain and keep up. I would urge the council to measure each property owner's commitment to this project along the same method, based off of their own property and not necessarily the unit method for the entire neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in the special assessment for the Liberty Heights plat?
Hi, my name is Roger Peters. I live at 1807 Statue Drive. I'm here to ask the council to support using the unit method for the street assessment. I know attending the PSSC meeting, many people are upset with the change in the ordinance. Ordinances change all the time. Nobody was promised at the time of purchase of their lot that they would be assessed under the ordinance at that time. This ordinance was passed in a legal, transparent manner that allowed for public input, yet no one seemed to take the time to attend those meetings and voice their concerns at that point. The current ordinance allows for the assessable front foot method and the unit method. The assessable front method has a flaw that where basically lots of equal size can be assessed thousands of dollars differently based on how that lot is configured. A square lot is going to pay more than what a rectangle lot would be. Using the unit method seems to correct that. We all use the streets equally, and we should all pay the same for those streets. I know in these hearings, people have been asked to go back to the old method. I think grandfathering would be a horrible situation. It would open up, or set a terrible precedent. The city has a duty to treat everybody equally. They need to apply the laws equally that are currently on the books and not make exceptions for this subdivision or future subdivisions down the road. And that's about it. Mr. Kaiser, he's the expert on this matter. I hope that the board, or the council rather, will follow his recommendation and use the unit method from this point going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the special assessment for Liberty Heights? Seeing no one? Oh, sorry.
I'm Mike Bartlett. I live on 1845 Hedgeview Drive in Liberty Heights. I'd just like to lend my support to the first two speakers. I think they made a very valuable and logical argument as to how that should be changed. And I think it's unreasonable to change the rules halfway through or a long way through from people who came in and bought in the subdivision under that particular ruling. So I'd urge the council to reconsider that and also think about how this impacts a lot of the younger people in that subdivision who will come up with having to come up with a very large amount of money. And I'm just wondering why it has been taking so long. Being the road is considered temporary, all right, it's 10 years old, and that sort of to me that defies the definition of temporary. So why wasn't this done 5 years ago? All right. So I would say that either delay it, find out a way to do to help compensate homeowners so that they don't have to bear the full burden of it. So I urge you to think about the constituents, right, rather than the ordinances that have gone through. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the special assessments for Liberty Heights? Seeing no one, I will close that public hearing. The next item on the agenda is consideration of special assessments to be levied upon properties on both sides of the streets for the construction and installation of street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk for the Cardinal plat. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on that item? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please come forward.
I'm John Henschel from 1341 Cardinal Circle. I guess I would just ask the committee, echoing the other guy's statement, that just with the cost of everything right now, if we don't really need to put the street in as much as I want the street right now, if we could just postpone it for another year or see if the cost would come down.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on the special assessment for Cardinal Plat?
Scott Gutzman, 1566 Lone Oak Drive. So I echo what John had just said. You know, the cost, not only the materials cost, but the loan cost right now. We haven't even talked about what the loan, you know, like if we split up the, you know, our assessment with the apron's going to be $18,000. So if we split that up onto our tax bill, you know, I called about a month ago when we got the initial letter and asked what the rate would be. And they're like, well, we don't know yet. I'm like, how can we not know? I'm sure the monies have already been secured. We should have that locked in. The rates should be determined. You know, I would like to know what the rate would be for, you know, if we're paying over time. You know, because $18,000, that goes somebody else, that's a lot to come up with for your constituents. That when we bought the house a year and a half ago, our builder told us, estimate it's like 8 to 10. And that was, I heard that from a couple people. So the costs have doubled in 2 years, you know, plus the cost then of the funds rate. So I'd ask that you consider those things and make public what the rate is that you're borrowing the money for.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in regards to the Cardinal Plat? Anyone else in regards to Cardinal Plat? Seeing no one, I will close that public hearing. The next item is consideration of special assessments to be levied upon properties on both sides of the streets for the construction and installation of street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk for Integrity Acres Plat and first edition of Integrity Acres Plat. Is there anyone here who would like to speak during the public hearing on that item?
My name is Evan Bosetti, and I live at 1826 Respect Avenue. This is the first meeting I've been able to attend due to working as a nurse at Theta Clark. I've gotten filled in by some of my neighbors of what's been spoken about at previous meetings, and I heard the term fair used in deciding to make all of the payments equal for all of the lots and the homeowners. I think it was a misuse of the word fair because it was a decision that was not made by people that live in the neighborhood. I believe fair was when all the lots were for sale and people had a chance to purchase the individual lot of their choosing and also understand that they were expected to pay for the frontage, not just a giant sum then divided equally. I think the word fair was used to kind of cover up and make it sound a little bit nicer. I was born and raised in Neenah. I'm a proud proud member of the Neenah community. This is the first home I've ever owned in Neenah as an adult, and it's the first time I've ever felt wronged by Neenah, which really hurts. I believe going back on your word and changing something that was already set in place, much like the Liberty Heights, now they've been around a little bit longer than we have, but going back it just doesn't feel right as a human. not necessarily with any business related. So I would just ask those involved to reconsider going back to what was originally agreed upon when things were fair from the beginning, when people had a chance to purchase their lot. I think that's about it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing regarding the special assessment for Integrity Acres plat in the first edition of Integrity Acres plat?
Good evening. Bob Zimmerman, 1517 Integrity Way. I was the first one to build on Integrity Way, and before I purchased that lot, for one, I was told there was going to be a temporary road, then 8 to 10 years down, the permanent road, so I kind of was thinking budgeting 8, 10 years down the road. Once I moved in, I was told it was this 4 years, so I had to move that up. Before I moved in, or before I purchased, I was also told $84 per frontage foot. That's what I could think of. Naturally, it's going to go up as time goes by. When we heard last summer that it was going to be done this year, I called the Public Works and I was told it was $104 per frontage foot. In February, Facebook just started lighting up about the change in how we are being assessed for that. There was no notice given to anybody on these streets that this was under consideration. Nobody that I know of got a voice in this at all. I think for future subdivisions, if you want to put out to them that this is going to be a unit pricing, that's fair. But I think we should be, as we were told it was going to be when we bought our lots. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing for Integrity Acres and the first edition of Integrity Acres?
Good evening. Dennis Maleevs, 1818 Respect Avenue. I was in front of you before, kind of speaking on the same subject from Integrity Acres, siding with Bob, our neighbor. Before purchasing the lots, everybody made a conscious decision to contact the city of Neenah and ask how the frontage would be assessed. Based on that, a lot of people build their homes, their dream homes on the lots, specifically solely reasoning with the frontage of their house. And none of us were notified in the timely matter of any changes being done to the ordinance. We were able to make some of the very last meetings. I just find it not fair. I ask you to keep things as they were originally in our purchasing agreements. Keep the assessment to each lot's frontage. Basically, that's that. If you could just keep that in mind when you make a decision, the last one, okay? I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing for Integrity Acres?
My name's Eric Klunt, live at 1814 Respect Avenue. I just wanted to say it's been 2 years of mud, dirt. My daughter can't ride her bike. We can't go for walks. I don't want a temporary road. I want the road put in. I want it done. Hopefully we're budget conscious. We want to be caring for everyone, work together, but I'm definitely ready for a road.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing for Integrity Acres or the first edition? Feel free to just come up. If I don't see your hand raised, sorry if I miss you.
Name is Dave Lambert at 1540 Integrity Way. I just like to support the move towards the assessment, value versus unit value. For me personally, that rate goes up, but I knew that when I purchased the lot. For about 60% of the people in the subdivision, it's $1,700 more, across that. So most of the folks are bearing the burden, of those that purchased larger lots and knew that. So I would just ask that we all knew what we were getting into when we bought the lots. I would go with the assessed value. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing for Integrity Acres or the first edition? Seeing no one, I will close that public hearing. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing for consideration of amending Chapter 26 zoning code of the City of Neenah relating to Section 26-550 residential driveway standards, Section 26-552 non-residential portable storage containers, and Chapter 26, Article 16, outdoor lighting. I'll open that public hearing. If anyone is here who would like to speak regarding any of those items. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on that item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing on that item. We'll move on to the Plan Commission report pertaining to the public hearings. Plan Commission meeting of March 7th. Alderman Steiner.
Thank you, Mayor. The Plan Commission met on March 7th. Minutes can be found on the city website. Commission recommends council approve ordinance 2023-04, amending section 26-3 and section 26-550 of the City of Neenah Municipal Code related to portable storage containers, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Steiner, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Is there any discussion on this item? Any questions? Alderman Skirms.
Thank you, Mayor. Just curious what the discussion in committee centered around on this, and the vote was unanimous to recommend, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm sure we can provide some insight. I know Brad was fighting the wave, trying to get back in the room, but I don't know if you heard that question, Brad. It really was, I think, and I'll restate it, but correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman Skirms, but what was the discussion centered around the Plan Commission discussion centered around this particular line item, which is the portable storage units. Maybe a recap, Brad, would be.
So the primary discussion around the portable storage units, and this is for non-residential, not for residential properties.
Yeah.
I think there were some concerns about the timeline. We originally proposed 60 days. I think there was some questions about maybe pushing that a little bit further from a temporary standpoint, particularly looking at the retail establishments like the Walmarts that have the big cargo containers outside, but also looking at like the construction projects that have the cargo containers and similar, that we're not overburdening them, and looking at possibly exempting them from the ordinance as well. So that's part of the research that we're doing.
Okay. Am I correct that in there, I believe it states that they're supposed to be stored behind the building? I don't see necessarily how that's always possible.
Yeah, the ordinance requires them to be stored behind the principal structure, but does allow for some flexibility in the event that that can't happen, and try to keep it out of the public view as much as possible.
So that's our preference, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote using your voting device. That motion passes 7-1.
Can I make a quick comment? I believe this item should have not be an action item. This was postponed at Plan Commission, am I correct?
Oh.
Yeah, the only item at Plan Commission that was recommended for approval was the outdoor lighting ordinance.
Okay. So,
Can I ask-
best course of action.
Brad, do we have this required notification, public notice?
Public hearing notice, yes.
Commission, with that, I would, perhaps if the council, I would reconsider the action and defer it back to Plan Commission. So rescind your approval, and I would return to our city attorney to make properly.
Yes, you could either consider it rescinded because it wasn't a lawful action, or if you want to make it really clean, whoever made the motion can make a motion to rescind the prior vote. Either one.
I will move to rescind the prior vote.
And
And I rescind my vote.
You did.
Brian did.
Brian did. There's a motion and a second to rescind that item as it was tabled at that committee level meeting. So we need to vote on that. Just give the clerk a minute. We'll do a voice vote. We'll do a roll call vote for this item. Okay, we'll do a voice vote for this item. All those in favor of the motion to rescind approval of this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is rescinded.
Commission recommends council approve ordinance 2023-05, creating chapter 26, article 16 of the City of Neenah Municipal Code relating to outdoor lighting, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Steiner, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Are there any questions on this item? Are there any questions? Alderman Skirms.
Just quickly, I read through this, and what I thought I read was that essentially no landscape lighting. That's the.
Brad can address
I
that.
misread it.
This ordinance, again, is for non-residential properties.
Right.
It doesn't prohibit the decorative type lighting. This is primarily parking lot, building type lighting. So this would not prohibit that type of lighting.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Use your voting device to cast your vote. That motion passes 8-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. This is the opportunity for members of the public to speak on any topic they would like to bring before the city council. We ask that if you come forward, give your name and residential address, and you are allowed 5 minutes to speak on any topic. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in the public forum?
When you get to be 81 years old, you have a few issues. Robert Lace, 765 Oak. Two items. One, I've already spoken to the chief of police on this issue. The police department recognized the police officer that was involved with a rescue in Appleton last summer. All that I would ask, if Neenah, the city of Neenah, considers, first of all, welcome mayor and council members. I am not speaking to anybody for a while. But anyway, if the council considers recognizing the officer again in a public issue, that my granddaughter also be recognized. She was the initial responder to this rescue of a 3-year-old child. My granddaughter was 15 at that time. She was recognized by the mayor of Appleton, also on news channels, TV and newspapers. So again, if the city of Neenah reconsiders or considers that idea, of recognizing the police officer, to consider my granddaughter also to be in there. Something else on a personal issue, last year, when Mayor Crawford wanted to initiate a mask ban, there's a lot of uproar, and I supported it. Just want to give you a quick update on the number of deaths in the United States from the COVID-19 virus. As of 5:30 today, it's 1,149,276 deaths from the COVID. So the concern was real last year, and this I'm targeting the anti-vaxxers and the anti-maskers on this issue because I've known friends that have died. They refuse to get vaccines. If you have a chance to get a vaccine, please do it. It saves lives. Also, yellow flags went up today on Oak Street, right off of Cecil, or off of Cecil and off of Chestnut. And I don't know what those are for. I don't know if anybody else does either. Last year they put in Wi-Fi, so that's why they had to mark the areas for gas lines. But I have no idea why these yellow flags are up. There's nothing in any agendas about that. So it's just a consideration or a question that I would possibly somebody could answer. Jerry?
I'll let the mayor run the meeting.
Anybody know why they went up?
Do you have any additional
No,
concerns?
that's it.
We'll address it as soon as I just want to wait until you were done.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks again, Mayor.
Director Kaiser, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, we have the contractor working on the Chestnut Street reconstruction project that starts at Oak Street and runs to the north. He started calling in Diggers Hotline locates for his project.
Well, there were yellow flags going up into houses also on Oak Street.
On Oak Street,
Right off of Chestnut. People don't know about that. Chestnut runs parallel with Oak. It
Yeah.
also runs into Chestnut.
yeah, there's
and
utility,
runs into Oak Street.
there's utility work that will extend into Oak Street for connections. So they'll call Diggers Hotline for kind of an area of work that they'll be doing, and the We Energies locators do a good job of making sure we know exactly where all their stuff is. So they would have marked service lines and main lines.
Why would they run yellow flags up to a house next to me?
Individual house, I'd have to go look at and see what it is, but the general locations out there are for our utility contractor.
And that, but, people that know that Chestnut, if people didn't stop on the stop sign at Chestnut, they would plow into my house. I look forward to the summer when everybody starts parking in front of my house and across the street and everything else on Chestnut. We have to deal with the people over on, behind us. And that lasted way too long, in my opinion. They had to go over and over. Waste of money. I called the mayor about creation of fire, garbage pickup and so forth. They just wasted too much time on that. They could have done it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum portion of our meeting?
Madam Mayor and City Council members, my name is Chuck Fravel. I live at 1107 Congress Street, which is a corner residence of East Peckham and Congress. I am here to ask that strong consideration be given to resurfacing East Peckham from Commercial Street to Congress. Now, I have talked to Jerry about this. I've made a phone call. I have talked to Brian twice, my alderman, and I understand that there is a formula and a metrics and so forth. I don't understand it. It wasn't explained to me. I don't know if everybody up there understands it. But what I'm doing is I'm asking you to look at this in the aspect of common sense. If you were to drive east on East Peckham Street from Commercial to Congress, and if you were to go 25 miles an hour, you would lose your lower plate. It is terrible. And I'm just asking for you to give that some consideration and look at it. And if you would render to Brian whatever your decision is, he could get back to me. He has my name, he has my phone number. I would just like you to strongly do that. And in closing, I'd like to give a tip of the hat to the street snowplow department. People, you've done an awesome job this winter, and you've been doing it every winter. So I just wanted to give a tip of the hat, because within like 8 to 10 hours after the snow, the streets are clear, they're dry. And kudos. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll pass that along. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum portion of our meeting?
Yes, my name is Dennis Kittle. I live at 410 Craft Street. Been a resident of Neenah for 19 years, actually over the last 32 years. This is my third tour, moving in and out with corporate locations. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me speak tonight. What brings me here tonight is the agenda item under the Public Services and Safety to approve the Bird MOU with only a date change. What I ask of the Council is that you send this back to committee. The reason for that is I think the city had set up a process for complaints and public input via the website, and that process was not followed, and that information never came back for consideration in the MOU recommendation here to the committee, so I'd like to see it go back again. I'm a supporter of this. I'm a supporter of Bird e-scooters. I'm a supporter of e-scooters. I'm an owner. I ride an e-scooter. I have for 4 years. May not look like that from my appearance and size, but I think it's thrilling. I think it's a great alternate transportation, and I have it to lower my carbon footprint. So I'm very much in process of this. I've spoken to Brian, I've spoke just in passing to the director, and I spoke briefly to Samantha about this. What really triggered me here was the memorandum you have in your packet. And by the way, I gave you also some information that I pulled together. In the packet information, it says that there's very few complaints, and Bird responded to those complaints quite quickly. But that wasn't my feeling. You have your own compass. I'm sure some residents commented on the e-scooter program here and maybe had made comments, so you have your own compass on this. Well, this is my compass, and I didn't feel this is true. I like e-scooters. I followed this in other communities, and we'd be an outlier. Other communities, when they run their first pilot programs, there's many complaints, and they're usually generally the same theme. These themes are injuries, riding downtown too fast, riding in other areas too fast, blocking access, scooters down on the ground, and vandalism are usually very much common complaints. But so why was Neenah different? Why did we have few complaints? And what happened to my complaints? I had put in over 100 complaints in the Fox cities, many of them in Neenah. Even though, again, I'm a supporter. And really what happened here was that, in my feeling, is that a lot of these complaints just weren't considered because Neenah encouraged and communicated that the Bird app was to follow the right path for filing complaints. The Bird app was posted on the website, and it's still posted today on the website. And so when you look at the term few complaints, that's true, Those were the complaints, according to Samantha, that came directly into the Community Development Office. But when you go back and look at what was registered in the complaints, and Samantha was able to pull those complaints from Bird, it was over 105 complaints. So there's 105 inputs that were never considered in saying the MOU should not have some revisions. And that's what my argument is here. Now, I've given you the complaints, and Bird is also has a dashboard on those complaints. Furthermore, in the MOU itself, it says that Bird is supposed to monthly report into the city that information plus other information, vandalism and injuries and maintenance and those types of things. Well, apparently that did not occur. So Bird did not share any information with the city. And again, that's not taken into consideration here. So my complaints were really about bird management. It's about staging birds. And I provided you a number of pictures of this and how they followed the MOU. The MOU said they really weren't supposed to stage them or park on sidewalks. Typical sidewalk is 5 to 4 feet in Neenah. And they were not supposed to park them or stage them on those 5 foot, anything less than 5.5 feet. And we're supposed to keep the right-of-ways clear. But from the pictures and what I registered as complaints, and what I saw was birds parked in bike lanes in the right-of-way. I saw birds parked, and I'm not using the word parked right. These are staged. These are where a bird comes overnight and places them and stages them. They're staged in front of fire hydrants. They're staged on sidewalks blocking access. And they're staged on the aprons, where this is an ADA issue, where you have to go over the curb, so then aprons and ramps. My particular interest is our trail system. The trail system is not mentioned in the current MOU at all, and I think that's what we really need to do. We need to recognize trails. Trails are 8 feet, and our park systems have become parking lots for e-scooters. And many times, and again I show pictures, when Bird comes up and stages something, they either put a bank in, they're all angled, but they're staged for visibility. So instead of just parking them parallel off to the side, they flare them out, they put them at 45-degree angles, and they really, again, for visibility, but that's also the maximum blocking of a trail. Our trails are for passages, our tax dollars paid for that, but they're being blocked. And I never went out looking for these problems. This is just what I came across at Menasha, Appleton, and Neenah. So what I'd like to have happen here is simply that if the city encourages a resident to put in their complaints through a typical process, they should use that information in consideration. Does the MOU need changes? And I have my details and changes here, but I really don't want to go into those details right here. I simply want it to go back to committee. That's where the detail work should happen. My last thought here, with bicycles, pedestrians, and now e-scooters, the city may want to consider having a pedestrian and bike advisory board. Many cities have this. Green Bay, Oshkosh, Appleton have these advisory boards with citizens, police officers, school people, and let's make safe routes through the city. And we're going to have more and more conflicts with more and more alternate transportation options coming up. So I also think that's a good idea and recommendation. So thank you. Thank you for your time. And please consider sending this back to committee for further vetting.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during the public forum portion of our meeting? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the mayor council consideration of the public forum issues that were brought up tonight. Alderman Erickson.
I have a question for Trevor Fink. Looking at the photos of the bird scooters, and I see many of them on the trail, if they were to be left on the lawns, that would be a problem for the city crew from lawn mowing, because you would never know, or is it a problem if they were not on the trail itself, when you have the big lawnmowers going through?
Yeah, it's kind of problematic both ways. So, guys have mentioned to me many times that, they have to stop and move things, so that would be a correct assumption.
So if they're left on the on the apron, on the grass, then, periodically, once a week, you're going through mowing the lawn, and if they're there, then you have to stop the process, move them to the trail so you can get the lawnmower through, move them back. But if they're on the trail, they're prohibiting people on the trail from using them.
Yeah, if they move them on the trail, I'm not 100% sure they moved them back, so that might be something I have to address with them.
Okay. Has this been a major issue for you, or is this something that we need to discuss, or what are your thoughts on it?
I don't think it's been a major issue.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Alderman Boyett.
Thank you, Mayor. Trevor, don't go away, because I think this is either for you or for the city attorney. I'm not sure on our local ordinance. So currently, we don't allow motorized vehicles in our parks. What does our ordinance say about trails and motorized vehicles? Being like ATVs, UTVs, these bird scooters, et cetera. Do we have an ordinance for that? Does it apply to the trail system?
I don't know. I would have to check.
Oh, you can? Good. Somebody.
Last year, when we brought the MOU, we did need to make an ordinance change. We used the example of essentially letting these be where bicycles could go. So that would allow them on the trails. This not only applies to bird, this would apply to private scooters as well. Also, at the time, electric bikes were not allowed on the trails. That also now allows them to be on. So we had to do that along with this MOU last year for our ordinance.
So they are allowed on trails, but not in the parks? Because we do have an ordinance for parks. We did it with the ATVs when the police department, we had to revamp it, so the police department were the only ones with their UTVs when we purchased them for parks.
I believe they're described differently in the code. I think it might be a certain weight, but don't quote me on that. But I believe the electric scooters and the electric bikes are defined differently, I think.
I think, okay, thank you, I appreciate that, because I think this gentleman had some really key points, and the fact that we're all just kind of wondering, I think it's a good idea to take it back to committee. Thank you.
Alderman Borchert.
Dennis, thank you for your report and your diligence on a lot of the details. I had some questions when this came to committee about where were the complaints, and there wasn't, and then there was, and so I think there's just some things that I originally was going to have like a friendly amendment to make sure, because I think when Dennis and I were talking, the staging of where they stage wasn't a concern originally when they first brought the idea of doing a pilot program here. I want to be very clear, though, we don't really have the control over where people leave their scooters, other than calling and then having them picked up or changed. The response time usually is pretty well. Sometimes they're outside of a house for 3 or 4 days. But I think also with Menasha upping theirs, they just passed their another year of this last council meeting. I think the ability to connect cities is important. I think there's a lot of benefit here, so I would love to be able to, and I will ask when it comes up to move this back to committee, just to iron out a few more details so that it's clear. And I think Community Development, Samantha, you've done a great job with this, so I really feel just a little bit more of a clarity so that Bird knows that we're asking things that we expect from them.
Alderman Skirms.
Just quickly, and I think, Brian, you brought this up in committee, the incentive to park it in a nest area doesn't work. It's not significant enough, and if we have any say-so in the contract to say this needs to be hefty enough to be worthwhile for people to park it where we want them to park it. That's the number one complaint I heard. They were all over the park, where if they could have put them all here and gotten a free ride or whatever. So just a comment to consider. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions that would like to be presented during this item? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 9, the consent agenda. Is there any objection to unanimous consent for approval of the change of agent for Ultimate Mart LLC Pick and Save at 1530 South Commercial Street to Dan A. Strike? Any objection? Seeing none, that is approved. Next item on the agenda, reports of standing committees, the regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of March 7th. Chairman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of March 7th, 2023, and the minutes can be found on the website. Item number 1, committee recommends council approve the proposal from Grafe of Green Bay for Carpenter Preserve Remaster Plan in the amount of $29,950, budgeted using 2023 CIP funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Weber. Is there any discussion on this item? Any questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 2, committee recommends council approve the purchase of the Canon Image Prograph TZ 30,000 MFP 36 from Gordon Flesh Company for a total cost of $12,838, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 3, committee recommends council approve the amended mobile food vending vehicles allowed map of Chapter 4, Article 8 of the Code of Ordinances relating to mobile food vendors, and I would so move.
A motion by Alderman Lundrum, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 4, committee recommends council approve the amendment to the memorandum of understanding between the City of Neenah and Bird Rides Incorporated, extending the electric scooter pilot program through December 31st, 2023, and I would so move to send it back to committee.
Just for, if I could, Mayor,
Yes.
we did confirm the question Alderman Alderman Boyette regarding the ability to ride scooters on the trails. They are specifically exempted within the municipal code.
There's a motion by Alderman Lundrum to move item number 4 back to committee. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Borchert. Do you want to indicate that?
No, Bert.
It says motion.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Here's a motion and a second. Any questions on that item that will be referred back to committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? Or all, cast your vote on your voting device. Getting to be a long night. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 5, committee recommends council approve the Monroe Truck Equipment Package to outfit Fleet Number 2 tandem patrol truck with a Salter in the amount of $150,569 using 2023 CIP equipment funds, and I would so move.
So motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Borchert, to approve the Monroe truck equipment package. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 6, committee recommends council approve the purchase of a BOMAG BW 900-50 asphalt roller from Miller, Bradford, and Reesburg Incorporated, De Pere, Wisconsin, in the amount of $24,077 using 2023 CIP equipment funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Hillstrom. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Director Kaiser. Are we replacing some equipment with this, or are we adding to our fleet?
This is a replacement.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding this item? There's a motion and a second to recommend council approve the purchase of this asphalt roller. Any other questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 7, committee recommends council approve the purchase of a trackless MT7 tractor with attachments from Mack Queen Equipment, Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, in the amount of $173,774, and to include the radio upgrade for a cost not to exceed $1,000 using 2023 CIP equipment funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Skirms. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 8, committee recommends council approve and accept the proposal from Coney Incorporated for the City Hall elevator upgrade in the amount of $717, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Weber, to approve the proposal from Cone for the City Hall elevator upgrade.
Mayor, can I make a correction there?
Sure.
The number should be 143,717.
Oops.
Big change. Yep. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Kaiser, can you give us just a brief detail of what the upgrade is?
The upgrade is essentially replacing the controls for the elevator. We've had a number of failures with the elevator, and parts are getting harder and harder to find. So the core of it stays the same, but the controls, control panels, wiring, the power unit, that all gets replaced.
Thank you. And what year is that? Do you know?
That's original to the building, so 1979.
Great, thank you.
Alderman Skirms.
And what brand is it here? Is it a Cone or Otis?
What we have right now, what we have now is Otis.
They bid on this or no?
Yes, they did. Yeah, they provided a proposal that was about $16,000, $17,000 more.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions on this motion to approve and accept the proposal from Cone for the City Hall elevator upgrade in an amount of $143,717? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And the last item, number 9, committee recommends council accept the proposal from Energy Control and Design for the Neenah City Hall HVAC upgrade in the amount of $77,945 using 2023 budgeted funds and funds from the 2022 ionization air purifier budget, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Lendrum, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Alderman Steiner.
Yeah, just want a little bit of clarification on the two budgets. So it looks like it's 2023 and then some from 2022. There, it's kind of a breakdown between the two.
The 2022 budget number was 20,000. And we had, what did we have? 65,000?
We had 65,000.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Was that your whole question, Alderman Steiner? Or did you want to know why we were doing it that way?
Yeah, just why is there just funds that were remaining and then we're utilizing those? Just
We had evaluated the air purifier unit. One was installed in the library in '21. It's kind of a response to COVID and some of the feeling that the employees might be more comfortable, healthier, that sort of thing. As we evaluated our options and kind of looked at where things were trending with the benefits of the product, there was some concern about an expansion of this kind of device being called for in city buildings, citywide. Kind of a, okay, we've got it in City Hall, why don't we have it at the Teller Garage? Why don't we have it at Fire 32, Fire 31? And in the end, kind of a, is it something we really need? Are we going to see that direct benefit in employee health, or is it going to be more of a feel-good in some respects? So we had looked at a couple of different systems, and at that point, we more or less let it lapse.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any further questions on the recommendation to accept the proposal on the HVAC upgrade? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And that's the end of my report.
Thank you for your report. Special Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of this evening. Chairman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the Special Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of March 15th, 2023. Item number 1, consideration of committee recommendation regarding Resolution 2023-05, Tax Incremental District Number 6, Affordable Housing Extension, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Skirms. Are there any questions on this item? Any questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item number 2, consideration of committee recommendation regarding Resolution 2023-06, closure of Tax Incremental District Number 6, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Is there any discussion on this item? Questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. There was no regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, March 6th. Reports of special committees and liaisons, item 11 on the agenda. There was no regular Plan Commission meeting on March 7th. So Board of Public Works meeting of March 9th. Vice Chairperson Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor.
Minutes from this meeting can be found on the city website. This evening, there are 4 informational items and 5 council action items. First one is A, the board approved change order number 1, contract 7-21, Harrison Street Stormwater Pond to MCC Incorporated in the amount of $63,617.01. Item B, the board approved pay request number 7, contract 7-21, Harrison Street Stormwater Pond to MCC Incorporated in the amount of $112,225.07. Item C, the board approved pay request number 2, contract 11A-22, water service replacement, Radine Avenue and Zemlock Avenue to Donald Ippes and Sons of Little Chute, Wisconsin in the amount of $11,456.25. And D, the board approved pay request number 2 from Lunda Construction Company, Black River Falls, Wisconsin, in the amount of $63,859 for work completed through February 28th, 2023, utilizing approved budget 2021 CIP funds. The first council action item, A, the board recommends council award contract 3-23, concrete pavement and sidewalk repair to L. Dix Construction Incorporated of Kaukauna in the amount of $561,275, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Skirms. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Skirms.
What area of town is that?
Miscellaneous concrete repair will be a number of areas in town. We're looking at Breezewood Lane over by Tuller Road. We have sidewalk repair. James is spearheading the sidewalk repair program, so he can outline where we're targeting for those repairs. And really, we're carrying over a number of concrete patches. We've got work out by the club car wash, things that we had intended to do last year, but did not get a successful bid.
Does that include the downtown that was marked last year? Yes? Thank you.
Are there any further questions on this item? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second. Please cast your vote on your voting device regarding the recommendation to award contract 323. That motion passes 8-0.
Item B, the board recommends council award contract 4-23, hot mix asphalt pavement repair to MCC Incorporated of Appleton in the amount of $71,119, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second to recommend council approve contract 423. Please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item C, the board recommends council award contract 6-23, street sanitary and storm sewer and water main construction on Columbian Avenue to Don Hippis and Sons, Little Chute in the amount of $781,639.60, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second to recommend council approve contract 623. Please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
Item D, the board recommends council approve award of contract 9-23 to Century Fence Company in the amount of $123,648.35, utilizing escrow funds from Club Car Wash of $6,000, public infrastructure funds of approximately $13,000, as well as budgeted CIP funds, and this is for epoxy pavement marking. I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lendrum. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Steiner.
So the epoxy marking, is this on like the speed bumps? The one, I think, Director Kaiser and I had talked about a
Yeah,
couple
yeah,
times.
we've had some back and forth. The budget on this one got pretty tight, so we're gonna end up doing those speed humps with our paint crews.
Okay.
And using conventional paint. This contract's covering 6 roundabouts and some mainline markings on Bayview Road and South Lake Street.
Okay. For the speed bumps, is there kind of like a listing of which ones are going to be done? Talking for a constituent that had many questions about it.
Well, we have the 2 out on Marathon Avenue.
Okay.
I can't think of any other speed humps that we have in the city. So as long as we're out there, we'll get both of them taken care of.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There's a motion and a second for council to approve contract 923. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device. That motion passes 8-0.
And the last item this evening, the board recommends council approve final pay request from Vinton Construction Company of Two Rivers, Wisconsin, the amount of $9,964.58, and it should say for Arrowhead Park grading and cover crop seeding instead of pure project work, completed through February 28th, 2023, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Lundrum. I actually don't see that wording on my amended agenda, so it might have already been changed. Are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, please cast your vote on your voting device to approve final pay request from Vinton Construction Company for the Arrowhead Park project. That motion passes 8-0.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you for your report. Reports from the neighborhood groups, the Business Improvement District Board, Alderman Skirms.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from January 17th meeting and also February 21st meeting. Both can be found on the city website. We have 2 new businesses downtown, Relish and Roots, which is right near the clock tower across the street from Lion's Tail. They have ready-to-go meal kits. They're locally sourced, and they should be open very soon. And I think they're also going to have some takeout items there. So that's exciting. We also have downtown in the former Mom and Pop's place, Lily and Sparrow, which is a home and gift shop. They opened it last week. So if you check those 2 places out. There was a discussion at the January meeting about the marketplace garbage corral, as there is at most bid meetings. And it was determined that we were going to try, and at that point there were 2 trash receptacles and only 2 recycling ones. And because of the amount of cardboard that's coming into the downtown, they were overflowing. Didn't work. So the suggestion was to eliminate one of the trash receptacles and put in a 3rd recycling one, which is what happened. It's an additional cost of $1,700 to the bid, but it seems to be working. So we were going to try it for this year, but at this point it seems to be working. So that's good news. Number of grants were approved between the 2 meetings. Bremer Law, Canova's Pizza for heating, cooling, and sign grant for what's their name? Relish and Roots. The bid ordered new LED holiday snowflake lights, so we should have those for the next season. The Warm Your Heart event was a big hit, again, as it always is. The next meeting is the annual meeting for the bid. It's be held at the future Neenah office the 21st of March. That'll be from 8 to 9. It'll be a casual sort of gathering, year in review, and there will be a continental breakfast, coffee, treats there. So stop by and see us. That ends my report.
Thank you for your report. I also want to say that I appreciate the 150th anniversary banners that are now flying in the downtown. The Library Board, Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Neenah Public Library Board of Trustees met today at 4 o'clock. Our new library director mentioned that we will be getting new carpeting on the second floor of the library, but I have some additional details about that. The Neenah Library's second floor from April 3rd through April 30th will be closed for the carpeting. For the safety of patrons, it will be closed, and what you will not be available, adult and teen puzzles and local history collections, first and second floor meeting rooms, and the pop-up book sale. During April, we will be not accepting materials. But what will be available is new adult and teen material, tax forms, newspapers, and a small browsing collection, which will temporarily move to the first floor. Phone, in-person, email, and chat reference services, library programs as usual, computers, printing, scanning, faxing, and notary services. So if you are interested in checking out books, I would suggest, especially those books and materials that are up on the second floor, to do that prior to April 3rd so that you have all of the things that you need. You can also order books through the Winnafox system, and those will be able to be picked up at the library. Also, the Neenah Library is participating in the Sesquicentennial by offering a 150 book reading challenge. So if you check out 150 books in 150 days and register, you are eligible for some prizes. So,
Do I have to read them?
yes.
Oh, you said check them out. I can do
Well,
that.
well, you can check them out. But don't return them when the second floor of the library is closed, because they're kind of going to be busy at that time. So
Right.
this program will run from March 13th through August 10th. So you might want to select your 150 days appropriately. So, and that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. The Landmarks Commission report, will that be by Alderman Weber?
Yes, it will. Thank you, Mayor. The Landmarks Commission met on Wednesday, March 8th. The minutes will be posted on the city website. There was initial discussion on planning for the historic canoe event again this coming fall, so more information to come there. That's been, the date has been secured with the company, so that'll be planned again. And then the balance of the meeting spent a lot of time around the 150th history activity. So Jim Taylor from the Neenah Historical Society talked about the opening of the exhibit this past Monday, so encourage everybody to go see it, have your family, friends go. We also talked about planning further for the history, the walking tour of the city, and we're trying to get volunteers through the Landmarks Commission as well to help with some more of that planning. And then the trivia contest, the history trivia contest, planned for later in July. The Dome in Neenah, so more to come there, but we're thinking about that. Concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Is there any report from the Community Development Authority? Director Hayes.
Mayor, I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Alderman Steiner, is there a report from the Bergstrom Mahler Museum?
There is. Thank you, Mayor. Bergstrom Mahler Museum Board met on Wednesday, February 22nd. Just a few items that are coming up. June 7th to June 17th, there's the Catching Fire auction, which there will be many impressive glass art items up for sale. So take advantage of that, especially if you're thinking about gifts coming up. On June 22nd, there is an Art After Dark dedicated to commemorating Neenah's sesquicentennial. So that's pretty exciting. They've been a great partner through all of that. And then on Saturday, August 12th, if we're really looking out, there's the Glass Arts Festival that will be coming up. Went to the one last year, and it was a lot of fun. Live music, food, beverages. So stop on down. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for your report. Report from the Park Commission, Alderman Borchert.
Reporting out from tomorrow's meeting. So again, we're ahead of things here. We are taking registrations for Operation Spring Break, open to boys and girls K through 6th. Spring Break week is April 3rd through the 7th, thank goodness. Program runs 7:30 to 5:30. Registration for summer programs for City Neenah residents begin March 8th. You should have gotten the brochure and all the registration materials in the mail. Seasonal staff has been employed. We're full at the Neenah Pool, 31 lifeguards and 21 admission concession staff. So, if you are into acting and want to audition for the 67th season of Riverside Players, will be held on March 25th and 26th. This season will feature the play Fireflies on June 21st and 25th, and the musical All Shook Up on July 20th to 23rd and July 26th and 30th. Last one is just the Arrowhead Pier construction continues to be in progress. Development has been slow recently to high water, but we're hoping to have that project completed by July. End my report.
Thank you for your report. Are there any petitions?
Yes, there was an annexation petition that was received on Monday for the McCormick homestead over on Breezewood Lane near Alpine from the town of Neenah to the city. That is going to go to the next Finance and Personnel Committee, Plan Commission, and then it's going to forward to the town board for the April 4th meeting. And maybe Director Hayes can give a little bit more.
I think you summed it up. I can answer any question.
Are there any questions regarding that petition that was submitted on Monday?
What is it?
It's a small property on Breezewood Lane near Alpine. So it's just, we used to
That little farmette.
we referred to it as
The
the
little
Beck,
farmette that's
the Beck
there?
Farm.
Yep.
The Beck Farm. So as you exit the city on Pendleton, on Breezewood on the north side of the road, one single-family home and some acreage. I'm guessing that's probably about an acre parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
So that will be referred to the committee, Finance Committee.
Okay.
Are there any council directives?
Mayor, I think we had a conversation about having a presentation about some of the budget concerns at the state level. We're going to have representatives come and discuss what they're doing, maybe giving us an outline of some of that. Have we had any headway on that at all? If it was going to committee, I'd talk about that.
I have not heard anything from
I'll chat
Alderman
with him.
Stevenson regarding that.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I know that with budget shortfalls and surplus, I think it might be a good idea for us to understand what is being done on our.
Mhm.
And the reason I asked that a little bit too is I know there was a contingent of administrators and teachers that were in Addison to discuss the budget. I just want to make sure that don't get all. But it would be good for us to understand a little bit of what is being done on our behalf and who's lobbying for us. And that's a substantial amount of money, but I know we're just small Neenah, if you will. But I think collectively the Box Valley has a voice that I think can be influential, getting some of that money distributed back.
Thank you. Are there any council directives? Any unfinished business? Alderman Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I would like to get some sort of an update from Director Hayes on the South Commercial, I don't even know what we called it, initiative, I don't know, the big plan we have for the future of that gateway of the city. I'm just curious, we haven't heard anything in a while, so do you have any updates? Do you have anything current?
Not anything
or-
too exciting. We have the plan in place. We have been working closely with Public Works relative to the reconstruction. That will probably be the next significant thing. We talked a little bit in finance about any additional strategic acquisitions that the city may be interested in that we continue to monitor and try to encourage, but nothing more than that, really. It's been pretty slow.
Thank you.
Is there any other unfinished business? New business. Arrowhead Park Development Status Report, Alderman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw a lot of the staff and aldermen last evening down here for the open house on Arrowhead Park, and we had a great turnout of people looking at all the different options and then selecting what they liked and what they didn't like. So it was a very successful evening for that. So we'll look forward to see what happens now for the April meeting.
Thank you for your report. Are there any other announcements or questions that may legally come before the council? Alderman Skirm?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. We received this week the Community Development Annual Report, and I'd like to thank Director Hayes, his staff. They've done an amazing job. I continue to be impressed by them, and I especially think hats off to Kayla. I don't think I've ever used the word beautiful for a report before, but professional is probably a better word for it, but very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements or questions? Alderman Boyette.
One last one, Mayor. I just wanted to give a shout out to our youth. This weekend, we had some 12U co-ed hockey players that went to state and placed 6th. We also had our Neenah boys basketball tournament in Brookfield at the same time. So our hotel was popping with Neenah folks down in the southern part of the state, and we represented our city well, and just wanted to give a big shout out to our youth and their sports.
Thank you. I'll just give one final shout out for the birthday of the city of Neenah that occurred on March 13th, this past Monday. So happy birthday, Neenah. Is there a motion to adjourn? There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.